Hello, I just finished reading The Comfort Book by Matt Haig, which I quite enjoyed. Now, I wondered who Matt Haig was. In fact, I was speaking to somebody yesterday, so I'm reading this book by a guy called Matt Haig. I don't know who he is, I've never heard of him. Wrong, I've actually read one of his books before. Several years ago, I read a book called Reasons to Stay Alive by the same guy. I read it because a friend of mine, my best friend actually, had died, he'd committed suicide, so it was an area I was looking into to try and understand what had happened or why it had happened. Now, one thing I didn't know about Matt Haig is he's now in his mid-40s, or he was when he wrote this book anyway. In his mid-20s, he suffered from suicidal depression, quite severe. He refers to it in this book. So what's this book anyway? This book's just about how to deal with feelings, how to deal with life. And there's a theme that seems to go through it about not always striving to be right or to be a certain place, and I guess it's a bit like just being in the moment and dealing with it and realizing that everything changes. So just because things are really shit at one point doesn't mean they're not going to get better. There was a couple of pages, there were a couple of passages that stood out for me. Easy to remember because they both ended in 4-6. I think it's page 146. See, some of these pages, that's all it says on there. So maybe this is a book that some people will get more from if you just read a little bit each day, or you just dip into now and again. I don't like reading books like that. Once I've got a book, I want to get it read, and I think you do eventually develop the ability to hold in lots of little small bits of information. Whereas, if you read a 300-page book, you remember the plot, you don't remember scene by scene. This is maybe 300 separate bits of information, small stories to illustrate things. But page 146 I found pretty good, but here we go. Page 146, warm. Don't worry about being cool. Never worry what the cool people think. Life is warmth. You'll be cool when you're dead. Head for warm people. Head for life. 246 was also very good. 246. Here we go. The messy miracle of being here. This is really good. The Western idea of self-empowerment requires you to become better, discover you're a billionaire, get beach-bodied, work, upgrade. It says the present is not enough. It's self-loathing masquerading as salvation. We need self-acceptance, self-compassion. Our present bodies and minds and lives are not things we have to escape. We need to remember the messy miracle of being here. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I think a lot of depression, a lot of self-doubt and everything is caused by that whole thing. The Western idea that we have to be better at everything and what we've got isn't good enough. And then you've got social media always showing somebody who's better at something or who has an amazing lifestyle. It's all bullshit, social media. It's the highlight reel from somebody else's made up life, desperate to try and get clicks and likes and all that bullshit. But this was actually a really enjoyable book. What does this say on the back? I never bothered reading before. Don't worry about, oh, here we go. It says, don't worry about being cool, never worry about the cool. It's page 146. Pick up this book anytime you need a boost. L. Now, I've never read anything with a review by L on the back, so this was a present from somebody. I wouldn't have chosen it necessarily myself. Full of reminders of the beauty of life, independent, like a steaming hot chocolate on a chilly day, Metro. Okay, so what does the actual blurb say? Because there's so much in this book, and my review of it is short. It's about realizing things change, and you don't always have to be perfect, and sometimes you can just be, and you don't always have to be something either. Sometimes you can just be. That's fine, all right, according to the writer, and I think I find myself agreeing with it. The writer, actually, Matt Haig, so I didn't know who he was. Well, I thought I didn't. I've read Reasons to Be Alive. He's also a best-selling author of something called Midnight Library, which is a children's book that has done very, very well and sold millions and millions of copies. Maybe I'll read it, I don't know. Okay, so reflection. This is the blurb, the inside. Reflections on hope, survival, and the messy miracle of being alive. It is a strange paradox that many of the clearest, most comforting life lessons are learned while we are at our lowest, but then we never think about food more than when we are hungry, and we never think about life rafts more than when we are thrown overboard. That's taken from the book. The Comfort Book is a collection of consolations learned in hard times and suggestions for making the bad days better. Drawing on maxims, memoir, and inspirational lives of others, these meditations celebrate the ever-changing wonder of living. This is for when we need the wisdom of a friend, or a reminder we can always nurture any strength and hope, even in our busy world. A book of timeless comfort for modern minds. All right. So the first one in this was the first paragraph. The first chapter in this was a story about when he was on holiday with his parents somewhere in France, and they went for a walk and they got lost. And his dad said to him, "Just go in a straight line. Eventually, you'll get to civilization." And they did. And then there's a story in here of Koepke. I can't, probably not pronouncing her name right, but a woman, a girl, 17-year-old girl, whose plane was struck by lightning. 91 other people on the plane all died. She, strapped to her seat, fell through the forest canopy, landed in the rainforest. Bad wounds. One of them became infested with maggots. She saw the dead bodies of other people around her being fed on by vultures. She was in the rainforest, so there were poisonous spiders, there were snakes, there were poisonous plants. She walked through the center of the river to be away from piranhas, and even though she was more likely to meet an alligator in the center of the river, she knew they rarely attack humans because her parents were zoologists. So what she's saying there is, with knowledge, you can overcome things. That was quite an inspirational story. In this book, there's a couple of chapters where the whole chapter is simply him writing, nothing is more powerful than a hope that will not give up, or a small hope that will not give up. And it's just that line again and again. It is a good book. Now I'm actually talking about it because literally I've just put it down just before pressing record, and it's kind of, I'm delving into it, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. You know, I do think mental health nowadays is very important because people's mental health may be due to things like social media, maybe due to the ways we've evolved away from how we've lived for centuries, has fucked people up a bit, and there's more mental health issues now than there were before. So it's a good book. I think it's a nice book. I never would have used that word to describe a book. I think it's quite an important book, and it's worth a read. So recommended, yes, 7 out of 10, and it's The Comfort Book by Matt Haig.